I think we can start off. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. Some of us are joining us directly through Teams, and there are others viewing on to our social media page as well. So welcome to everyone. And I would also like to thank Mr. Bassam for joining us for his perspective on the click side. I'll just sort of introduce the topic and then leave it to the speakers. So Mr. Bassam, who's the CEO of Al-Wadba, and he's one of the persons I've seen extremely sort of, he's always talking about his click dashboard or how he's monitoring things. So when we talk about the tone being set from top, he was the example that always comes to my mind when we talk about analytics and sort of implementation of click. So we'll just hear his perspective, how things are like, how he has seen things and his experience from click side. Then we'll see a small demo from Hasham, supported along with the team, Fabia and Shoaib, who will walk through sort of an example or a dashboard that we can look at for optimizing of claim side. And after that, we will also hear from the Click team themselves, Z and Makis, who are joining us to talk about more advanced features of Click and Click Sense that can help companies in this area. Now, the topic that we selected today was sort of getting the competitive edge through claims optimization. And the reason this is important is what is happening in the motor market right now. So I'll just take 2 minutes on that and then hand over to Mr. Bassam. So if we were to look at very high level sort of benchmarks in the industry, an exercise that we did, the problem that the industry is facing that the tariffs are dropping a lot. So the dark blue line shows the tariff for comprehensive in the UAE market on a rolling 12-month basis. And we can see that there is from the high of 2017, there has been around a 40% drop in tariffs between these years. Now this is comprehensive, and if you were to look at third party, the drop has been around 33% from the highest rolling 12 months basis. But if we compare it from the highest level, the quarter in which had the highest tariff versus the current quarter which has the lowest tariff, the drop is around 46%. So this is an alarming situation with the rates going down so much. We hear a lot of it. So one side is the rates. That is also being controlled by the competitive pressure. But what we can do is how can we sort of optimize our claim spend or reduce the loss ratios. And a corresponding connection to this is looking at the combined ratios. We've seen the combined ratios increase by around 70, just the loss ratio increased by 17% in the first half of 2021 as compared to 2020. And a key reason behind this increase obviously is that last year there was a lockdown. So now imagine this situation here this year when you don't have a lockdown and the rates are very low. So from an actuarial perspective, Q3 is normally a very easy quarter to do the closing for. And for us, Q3 has been very difficult this year. In the UAE, in the Saudi, in all the markets that we work in, Q3 has been very difficult, which has been a first for us in so many years. Because generally Q3, people are on holidays, the traffic is low, the utilization is low. Now, given that these things are changing, the loss ratios are going up. So what can insurance companies do, at least on the claim side or on the optimization side, to keep a control on it? This is the combined ratio for comprehensive and the similar trend that we see in third party side as well. So with that, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Bassam for joining us here, and I would like to hand it over to him to share his perspective from the way he is monitoring things.
Thank you, Mr. Hatem. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I hope you all can hear me clearly. First of all, Hatem, I would have loved to start with the positive tone, but I look at your couple of slides that you have shown, showing the deterioration, be it on the loss ratio or the trend in the markets. But through my few minutes talk to you about the click, I'll try to have that positive tone to tell you my experience and how I look at things. Frankly, I mean, you know, and I mean, my background by education, I'm an economist and statistician, and figures to a certain extent are my passion. I look at figures and can read many things from them. If I tell you that how I have started my career, there is one gentleman that I've just have seen his name pop up in the audience, and that is Mr. Farid Lotfi, the General Secretary of the Emirates Insurance Association, and he's a person that is very close to me. And when I started my career, I remember joining the company, the Arab Insurance Group then, and he was the person who guided me through the place and told me that this is your desk and this is a terminal that you will be working on. And he didn't say computer, he said this is a terminal. And yes, it was a device connected to a mainframe. Our task as underwriters is to key in information in it and then generate reports. The system then was, I would say, clever, but not to the level that we are seeing today. You look at the past, you key in the data, you have the database, you look at the past, and you can see where you are today. Now, today, this is completely different. Now, the systems that are available that look at what you have been doing, they can tell you where you are today, and they give you a window that you can see the future in it. It can be to a certain level of accuracy that can really amaze people, you know. Figures can tell you a lot, and looking at the past can give you direction into the future. Now, I have looked at many systems during my career in the direct insurance when I joined Al-Wathba, and when I look at things, I look at any system that can really look at the data stored and work with them. And I said it to you, Mr. Hatem, at a point of time, I call it data mining. And it is really mining because you look at the data, you get information from it, and you monitorize the data. And this is similar to gold mining. You know, you look at gold, you mine the gold, and after that you process it, and you get something with a serious value. Information exactly is the same. And for me, you asked me about my passion with the information, the system, and the dashboard. Yes. At a point of time, my son was asked what your father is doing, and he said he's working something called ClickView. And they said, what is this? He said, don't worry, it's something like PSP, you know, like PlayStation. This is his PlayStation. And this is very much correct for me. I look at the ClickView, the easiness in which it really look at data, process the data, and get you the information that you want. I have been using it for a number of years. It's a main thing as a tool, management information system, that I have it in the company. It is tackling certain areas, one of which is finance, one of which, the other thing is the underwriting, and also management issues. And in each aspect that we look at, it gives us a certain perspective. You know, if you have the right data, and you have the right tools in the ClickView, for example, it can process the data and give you where you stand from a financial point of view at any point of time. And even from underwriting, I know that the topic of today's meeting is mainly about motor and performance and how you can control it. And I tell you, from an underwriting point of view, if you use the right methodology in processing the data, you can know exactly how you have been doing in the past, what rates you have been imposing, and you look like the trend analysis. Trend analysis is very important to compare the rates that you have been imposing in the past. What are your break-even points? Okay. And the cost ratios, and all this can lead you to know how you have been doing in the past, what is your position now, and this help you and help us in Al-Wathba to look at the future, what we need to do within certain parameters. And this is from underwriting. When I look about claim, I can go to the extent looking at each part of the business that we are underwriting, and talking about motor specifically, and how it is performing, what is the loss ratio, what is the combined ratio. And I can work even with something called sensitivity analysis. I have different factors that I have in my system, and just manipulating or changing some of the factors or criteria, I can anticipate, like in the year ahead, what my results will be. So this is very important for us. The other, or the third angle that we work with the ClickView is from a management point of view. And I'm not talking just figures, but ClickView, if you know how to incorporate the right information in it, you can have an insight into many areas of your operation that you cannot in normal circumstances know about it. I'll give you just a very simple example. All our telephone calls, incoming and outgoing, we have a database for it. I have it in ClickView. Probably you haven't heard of this, or rarely you find a company doing that. But by doing this, I can control my calls. I know the calls that has been made to whom and the cost of the calls. So we can rationalize this, and this really have helped us to reduce the expenses in that respect. You look at your expenses, you have the expenses of the past, you have your budget, and you know what you are doing now. And you can compare that, and you can see on a daily basis, if there is anything goes beyond the norm, you can take decisions for controlling it. So it's really helping in that respect and to that extent. Now, having said this, you said that, I have a passion for this, and I call it, it's my driving dashboard. I sit, once I sit in my office, I open my computer, the first thing I get is the ClickView dashboard. But to get to that point, there has to be a complete commitment from both management and the team. ClickView gives you the system, but designing the reports, putting it in the system is the task, responsibility of both management and the team, mainly the IT team. The report I talked to, or I spoke about for example, the motor performance. You need to decide what are the trend analysis that you want to have it, what kind of graphs you need to incorporate, what kind of factors you need to include in the system. And we have to this level of sophistication in using the ClickView is not just in one day. It's something has been built day after day. And I will not reveal a secret or anything. I have one gentleman sitting in my company. His main responsibility and task is just to work with ClickView and avail these reports. I can safely say that we have a very much an acceptable loss ratio on the motor team. And I'm talking loss ratio, not talking about combined, because combined ratio is something else. Combined ratio involves other market factors, but talking about loss ratio is very much controlled from simply being able to have the insight on the motor performance and to take the right decision. So my last word today for the attendees is that a ClickView is a great tool, but it will only be great if you know how to make it great. You have to be completely dedicated. You have to believe in it, put the right information, and you design what you want from it. I always say, I dream of something. I come to the office and have my colleagues have my dream come true through this ClickView. It's very useful. It has helped a lot. And I involved in other business entities, and all these I have imposed on them really to use the Click. Now, ClickView you have ClickSense, it's the Click. But we definitely, for us, it's a requirement to have it in place, because this is the dashboard that tell us where and to where we're heading. I hope I have given you an idea of my experience with the tool.
Thank you
very much for giving me the opportunity.
No, sir. Thanks a lot for that insight. And one thing that I've always admired about Vadba is everyone is looking at the same dashboard. In other companies, what we have seen is people keep on fighting about numbers. Everyone is using different sources of information to come up with a number which sort of satisfied them. But in case of Vadba, one thing that we've seen in the management meeting, they happen through Click. So since everyone is looking at one, so when you come into the meeting, you come into meeting to resolve the issue, not sort of fight on the numbers, then go back and come after 2 weeks and nothing changes. So this is one thing I really appreciate about. And again, the point is, it is a very useful tool, but the drive has to be there to implement this.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for
Thank
that
you.
insight. I will now hand it over to Hasham and team just to walk us through sort of a small demo on the click side.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Mr. Bassam. Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning, everybody. So my name is Hasham. I'm a director and actuary at Badri. Sorry, there's a bit of echo. Okay. So there was a just doing a quick sound check. Can you hear me okay?
I think the echo is still here. If there's anyone else besides you, they can put it on mute, the speakers.
Okay, let me try. How about now? Is this better?
No, it's still echoing.
Sorry, if I may suggest, I think you're talking from both laptop, probably computer, as well as earphone. Maybe you need just to ensure that there is only one source of mic that's in the room.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Apologies for that. Thank you, Mr. Bassam. Thank you, Hatim. One thing, before I get started, for the next 10 to 15 minutes, just going to give a very quick overview of some of the capabilities of Click and some of the deep insights you can get. One of the phrases that really resonated with me actually when Mr. Bassam was speaking, the title of this presentation is Gaining Competitive Advantage through Claims Optimization, but we could have easily called it monetizing data. It's a great phrase and encapsulates entirely some of the deep insights you can get from Click. So what we're going to demo is a series of dashboards showing, firstly, how you can quickly assess and monitor your headline KPIs. So give you that overview of your business performance. And then at the next stage, drill down to quantify, what are the drivers of performance? So then when the CEO gives you a call, or if you happen to be a CEO and you want to task your team with, getting the information, how do you formulate the action plans and recommendations to take corrective actions, through data-driven decision-making to really give you that competitive edge. Like Hatim said, it's a very competitive market at the moment. So moving on to the actual demo, the example we're using is based on a motorbook, but it can easily be adapted to medical, other general lines. So getting started with the first dashboard. So looking at the overall KPIs. So we've got a motorbook here, and at a glance, you can see the headline performance. So the top left, you can see GWP for 2021. You can see how it's been trending down since last year. You can see earned premium as well, trending down from 122 to 100 million. And then on the top right, you can see the claims. So claims that have been paid and outstanding. And on the top left, you can see the breakdown by vehicle type, and also on the bottom left, you can see what type of business we've been writing over the last 2 to 3 years. So mostly for our book here, for our example, it's mostly in the comp side, and we've also got a sizable portfolio in TP. And then those all important loss ratios. So we can see on the top right that the loss ratios for TP and comp side by side, these are overall loss ratios over the last 3 years. So, and we can clearly see comp has been reasonably profitable, but TP is bit of cause for concern, trending slightly higher. How does that compare to what we've been using for pricing? And then on the bottom right, we also have at a glance, what the claims have been paid with a breakdown by region. So moving on to the next dashboard. So we've looked at, headline KPIs. That's given us a glance of, and we've already identified that, TP is a slight cause for concern. So let's look at production, our gross premium analysis. So on the top left, you can see the trend of the production month on month. And the blue bar is last year, and the orange bar is the current year. And you can see that, the trend shows that, January year on year, so we saw earlier that overall the figures have been trending down since last year. But you can see that January, the trend has been down, but, it's kind of tailed off and it's actually improving. So the trend is actually moving in the opposite direction. The chart on the top right shows our exposure and our average premium by year and by body type. And so, we can see the exposure here. I won't go into all the details here, but it's, very powerful chart, shows that most of our business is in sedans. And the lines that you can see, and we can drill down to see the exposure count and the average premiums from 2018, 19, and 20. And the lines actually show the average premiums for each year. And you can see, and what this shows for the sedans, for example, from 2018, the dark blue line at the top has trended down to 2019. So we actually took a decision to decrease our premium and in order to capture market share, but that's leading to higher loss ratios. So we've actually made a correction in 2028 to build that back up. And you can see that very quickly by each vehicle and body type. On the bottom left, you can see the trends in the overall production. So we can see it's trending down. And then on the bottom right, a really great feature of Click is we also have geo capability where we can actually drill down and look at where we've been writing the business in the Emirates. So we can focus on Abu Dhabi, look at the average claims, so we've got Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah here. And we can drill down and see the average claims. So if we, for example, just select one region, great feature here. And you can drill down and at a glance see the top 5 claims with some horrific pictures of total losses here, as you can see. Okay, so we've looked at a snapshot of overview of the entire business. We've looked at production. How about those all-important loss ratios? So what's causing the concerns in the loss ratios in the TP book? So on here, we've got a series of charts. Firstly, looking at the trends on the top left, you can see the trends year on year on the comp side and on the TP side. And clearly, year on year, the TP book has been considerably worse, the cause for concern. So why don't we drill down further into the TP book and see where some of those losses are coming from? If we drill down by product type, we see the split between our corporate and retail books. So, most of it's coming through on the retail side. And we can also see our exposure, the loss ratios on the bottom left are significantly higher for the sedans, where most of our exposure is. And then if we also go to the bottom right, we can also see, distribution. So focusing on the retail in our TP book, getting into that next level of detail now. On the bottom right, you can see the distribution, our exposure by broker. So broker 2 makes up about 15%, broker 5 about 8%. And the table on the top left shows that the loss ratios for broker 2 and broker 5 are the highest, but broker 2 it, has higher exposure. So let's have a look at broker 2 in a bit more detail. So you can see that broker 2 consistently over the last few years, significantly worse loss ratios than the other distribution channels. If we drill down further into the next, so looking at sedans, so broker 2 and sedans are the cause for concern. And if we focus even further, on the top right, you can see that Kias and Hondas are particularly high. So don't forget here in our selection, we're looking at broker 2 and the sedans. And this is just on broker 2. If we deselect broker 2, let's have a look at the other distribution channels, what the overall average is. So you can see the chart, how the burning costs have actually come down significantly. And so immediately, through a series of, in a matter of minutes, we've identified that our loss ratios for broker 2 are high within the TP book. We've identified which vehicle types. So we know immediately, what sort of corrective actions we need to put into place. Just looking at frequency and severity, and the burning cost on this page. So you can see that, in terms of frequency, it's pretty similar across all the different makes. But in terms of severity, we've got Fords and Kias, which are particularly high. How are we doing for time? Okay, another couple of minutes. So immediately, you've got insights into production, loss ratios, burning costs. And if we want to also go into a couple of other features wanted to highlight. Firstly, we looked at broker 2, given us cause for concerns, and we've put in some corrective actions. How about monitoring that? A really powerful feature is actually creating alerts. So this is a way that we can actually set up an alert to look at, monitoring the performance of broker 2 over time, for example. So say we want to monitor the loss ratio. We've put in some measures, and what this will do is actually give you a ping. You can do it in the app, or you can even send it to your mobile or to your email, and to monitor that performance over time. So automatically notify you. Say we want to set it when the loss ratio for broker 2 is higher than 100%. And of course, yes, this triggers because they're currently running, much higher run rates than 100%. But you can set up, for example, we've set up a daily alert, but we could also set up, for example, after a month or two to give them some time to get things in order. The other feature I wanted to highlight before closing up is a feature called Insights. So again, say you have a query, we have a goldmine of data here, and you want to quickly get an insight and run a quick Google search, if you like, and pull up a statistic. You can actually go in and create an alert and into the Insights advisor. So into the hub, just waiting for it to come up. And it's got voice feature. You can just talk to it like Siri, or you can just type it in, and it immediately brings up a headline piece of data. So here we're just looking at a comparison of, say you want a comparison of the burning cost between Nissans and Toyotas. This comes up at a glance. So we can do it inside the hub, and there's another way to do it outside the hub as well within the app. So there's different ways of, getting quick insights and doing searches on the data that we have. Looking at, for example, what's the GWP? Great feature. So at a glance, really quick insights at your fingertips. So probably over time now, just want to show one quick feature before I finish up. This is an extension, an additional feature, which is pretty cool. So say you wanted to analyze the claims in a bit more detail. So the claims paid dashboard that we've got here, the slider pulls up your claims data, and say you wanted to identify your recent top 10 claims, and you can see the pictures there, the total losses, and it just pulls up the insights into, the vehicle types, the total losses, the values, and so on. So, and this is a great feature to actually give you, an overview of your top 10 or top 5 claims, depending on what you're interested in. And then the final feature, again, trying to cover quite a lot here in short time, but say you wanted to analyze performance side by side, this alternate state, you can actually set up a side-by-side comparison. Say you want to analyze the performance of broker 2 versus broker 1, for example. Again, you can see at a glance, the exposure, you can bring up loss ratios, whatever data that you've got in your database. So with that, I think I'm going to close up. There's one more. Okay, I'm being reminded there's one more feature. Thank you. One more feature to highlight. I'm going to pass over to my colleague Sohaib, who's going to share, as well as accessing on the PC. If you want quick insights on the move, you can actually use Click on your mobile. So, Sohaib, do you want to just quickly share? So again, all the charts and features that we had from earlier, visible, on mobile, and you can get the alerts and so on. And you can also drill down, and see those, that deep claims analysis as well. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Covered quite a lot for today. Very happy to take questions at the end, but I hope this shows, just a small example of some of the powerful deep insights you can get, some of the things that, Bassam and Hatim were talking about earlier, how you can really monetize the data you've got, in a very competitive market. With that, I'm going to wrap up and we can take questions at the end. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sham, Fabia, and Shoaib for this. I'll now hand it over to Z and Marquis, who are from Click, to take this forward.
Thank you, Bassam. Thank you, Hatim, and thank you for the demo. It was great to see. Thank you all for your time. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining from. Hopefully, everybody can see my screen. Can you see the slides in full screen? Perfect. I'm just going to spend 10 to 15 minutes giving you a quick overview from the Click side as a platform. My name is Zia Hussain. I'm responsible for our enterprise insurance customers in the Middle East region, and I'm joined by our pre-sales and solution architect lead, Makis, who will be around for some questions and any further things that we require clarification on towards the end. So I'll give you just a very quick overview for those of you who are not aware, who is Click. Click is a large organization, have been around for close to 3 decades now. And during that time, for over the past decade, has been a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant when it comes to, the data and analytics, a large customer base globally, and a huge ecosystem of partners, and Badri being one of those. So what is ClickSense? ClickSense is the setting the benchmark for the next generation, the 3rd generation of BI, and it supports the full range of users and the use cases, including everything from the preparation, the visualization, the guided applications, dashboards, custom embedded analytics, even mobile and other reporting, all within our governed framework. As we can see from this kind of summary slide, everything from prepare, create, and then consume with those conversational analytics, with those reporting, alerting, and self-service, which drives data literacy through organizations. And that's kind of the underlying sort of engine behind that is Click's associative and cognitive engines in a modern and open architecture, delivered in a secure way. We've gone through this. I just wanted to bring this up again very briefly. This is extremely powerful, right? Because as we've heard from various analytics firms, one of them being Gartner, that NLP will be one of the ways in which organizations will boost their adoption to analytics and the way users will interact with the data at a faster pace and be able to find answers. We mentioned it's a goldmine of data using the associative engine. So using natural language processing and through the use of Insight Advisor, being able to get the answers faster, easier, and quicker. Moving on to the next slide. So I just wanted to just stop on this one for a second, right? We've touched on a number of things around, the applications, around, how Click is delivered, but with ClickSense, whether that's on-premise, whether that's SaaS, multi-cloud, private cloud, our customers are able to gain significant benefit, particularly when we look at ClickSense SaaS. And the reason for that is there is minimal infrastructure cost. In fact, there isn't really any infrastructure cost, giving you a faster time to market and negating the need for any resources as such, where you would spend time for the infrastructure setting that up, right? So it lowers the risk. It makes it easier, to spin up applications in a very fast, efficient, and quick way in our high-performance SaaS, cloud platform, as well as, through multi-cloud. Wherever your data is residing, Click will be able to, connect to that data, whether that's private, public cloud, or on ClickSense SaaS. Moving forward, wanted to touch on a couple of areas. Basim mentioned these earlier, Hatim did, we've covered a number of these, but just at a high level, some of the key trends that Click is help addressing within the insurance industry is around the customer intelligence, is around the reimagined processes, new business opportunity. We've heard of monetizing data in many ways, shapes, and forms. That's the areas in which Click is, delivering value and has been within this industry, and also balancing, the risk and the reward, to insurers to ensure that, they remain leaders and they remain profitable. Just to dig in a little bit deeper into this, without double-clicking into each of this, content will be available, following this presentation, and we with Badri will be happy to follow up directly on a one-to-one basis. But to give you an idea, we've heard around financial reporting, compliance. We've heard around, customer product profitability, around, customer-facing engagement, around, claims management, around internal processes and operations and call center. There are a number of areas where, organizations are leveraging, ClickSense within their ecosystem to drive, reimagined processes and their operations, driving significant ROI across the business. Couple of the ones to touch here, for example, the underwriter's toolkit, that's, extremely powerful when it comes to when they're working with the pricing actuaries, ensuring that each of the policy provides the required level of cover, the T's and C's, and so on, and to help them assess the risk, of the cover and the customer, provides kind of a full 360, into the organization and into, their customer base, as well as, the key financials. The same applies, when it comes around to sort of the pricing, whether it's sort of, forecasting and around, the pipeline analytics there. Conscious of time, I just want to, I want to leave at least 15 minutes for Q&A. So, Click has a large plethora of insurance customers globally, right? I mean, 8 out of the top 10, over 30 of the top 50 globally, who are leveraging. Some of them are mentioned here, which will be familiar, such as Lloyd's, Group Zurich Insurance, MetLife, a number of insurers in the region, which probably are not as, externally or publicly sort of available, but they are leveraging them, end to end, across those use cases that we've mentioned on the call that have been demoed, and beyond that, to really become data-driven, right from the point Bassam made at the start of the call, from a CEO dashboard, a CEO perspective, right through to claims optimization, right through to underwriting, and then every step, of the supply chain within the insurance sector. And these are the areas where we are, continuing to see high momentum during, pre, and even more so post-COVID, as we move into this new era in how we support these organizations with our technology, with our platform, and with our partners, like Badri. With that, I'd like to open it up to Q&A. I'm sure there's some questions for everybody who's presented. We are joined by Maki as well, who is our subject matter expert from Click. So Sibtain and Hatim, I'm not sure if you want to open it up to the Q&A, please.
Yes, thanks a lot. So if anyone has a question, they can either type it in the chat box or just raise the hand, and we'll enable it. Yes, Mr. Bassam.
Yes, very quick question. I'm really fascinated with what I have seen regarding the analysis of the motor performance, but I believe what we have seen is on ClickSense, maybe what's availability on ClickSense and not ClickView. Am I correct in this?
Yes, sir. This is ClickSense. Basically, ClickSense, when Shoaib also showed, he was able to show it on a mobile very easily. So ClickSense is the newer version, and they're also sort of helping companies migrate from ClickView to ClickSense. And Makis and Z might be able to add a bit more about other features as well.
Thank you.
Maki, it's probably worth, I think, to address Basam's question and maybe others on the call as well, around the ClickSense, on-premise SaaS functionality and kind of product features, and how that kind of sits today, given the R&D and where the focus is from a Click perspective.
Yeah. I was trying to unmute myself essentially because and I'm having a bit of an echo. I don't know if you also have echo. No.
It's okay now.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's essentially a great question. The answer, I think, is really simple. ClickView was the first platform or solution that we introduced back in 1993. Since then, we've updated the technologies we use. in the platform, and I think it was 6 years ago, more or less, we've got the new version, which is called ClickSense. Essentially, ClickSense is based on more modern technologies, and it covers more use cases like mobile analytics, like embedded analytics or self-service. It's way easier for the end user to navigate within the environment and produce their own analytics and charts and visualizations. Whereas ClickView is more of an IT-driven approach where IT builds the dashboards, hands them over to the business users, who then can navigate left and right and start playing with the data. Whereas ClickSense is way easier for the end user to navigate within and offers more capabilities. On top of that, since ClickSense is the strategic platform and the way forward, whatever comes out in terms of new functionality, it comes first in ClickSense, and then it's being ported, if possible, in ClickView. And whatever we see in the SaaS version, in the software as a service section, it's based on ClickSense and not ClickView. For the existing users or customers of ClickView, rest assured that it's not going to go anywhere, so it will be supported, because that's a question we usually get from customers. It's supported, it's not going to go anywhere. In case there is a use case that might be served easier or better with ClickSense, there is a conversion path where the vast majority of the content that exists in ClickView will be converted to ClickSense, right? The backend from a technical perspective is exactly the same, so the engine is exactly the same, so the features are the same. The only thing that differs is the front end. Hopefully that covers the technical aspect.
Thanks a lot for that. Basically, Ayman also wants to ask a question. I'll try to enable. Okay. Until the time we enable Ayman's question, there was also a question asked on the chat about whether the insight feature requires any additional license. I think Z, you might be a better person to answer this question.
Yeah, so could you just clarify the question? So whether ClickSense requires any further license?
No, does the insight feature require any additional license?
So great question. So with our ClickSense offering, Insight Advisor is something which is priced, by the deployment, for example. So let me see if I can share this slide. If you give me 1 second, we can come back to this question because it's just loading. I can see Ayman's question. Probably Maki could help with answering this. The question is, the solutions which are mentioned, are those offered by ClickSense, or do they differ by the organization, to design those effectively or create those?
So by solutions, I would assume that we mean the vertical solutions about claim management, so everything that is industry related, right? Is that the question?
I think it was probably about the dashboard that we show.
Yeah, the dashboards, which are industry related. So the answer is that those dashboards and the content included in those dashboards, you can reuse, right? It's not these mainly are dashboards and content that we've put together based on our experience, and any customer can reuse it, right? They have been prepared by different LOBs, lines of businesses of Click. They are based on ClickSense, of course. Some of them are also available on ClickView. So the idea behind those dashboards is to help customers get a head start, right? Because we've seen that in some cases, customers do not necessarily know exactly what they're looking for, what kind of KPIs they want to monitor, and what kind of visualization objects or charts they want to produce. So we've put together those dashboards as a head start. So here, start your journey, get an idea, use it as food for thought, and then we can build on top of that. Now, because we understand that it takes two to tango, which means that, yeah, the technology is nice and it's good, but it also requires some sort of functional expertise. So that's why we've got partnerships, and that's why we've got Badri here. So Badri and the colleagues from Badri are familiar with the functional aspect of things with the insurance business. They are also aware of the technology, and they combine both worlds in order to put together those dashboards. Now, what I also need to point out is that even if someone starts using those templates, as we call them, it's not necessary that they will meet 100% or even 80% of the needs, right? It's just, they are just being used as food for thought. Especially with Click's technologies and solutions, it's really, really easy to start from zero and build something, you know, from scratch. It doesn't take months to deliver. I mean, possibly, Hatim, you can share, you know, I wouldn't call it an average deployment in the area, but at least based on your experience, how long does it take in order to get that first quick win?
From a functionality perspective, even power users can make dashboards very quickly. So the struggle that we've seen in the insurance industry in the region is mainly coming in from the data, because the data coming in is not clean. So what we have also done is we have created certain standard dashboard, and once we sort of align the data, Click has its own ETL layer as well. Once we transform that, it goes in quite smoothly into that. Like as an example, you know, once you just have to amend, okay, what is gross premium? So one company might be getting a field called gross premium. One company might be adding 5 different fields to come to gross premium. Once we define that, all your dashboards are then made. And a lot of companies have found it easier to because we understand insurance. You won't have to come in and explain, okay, what is an earned premium, what is the loss ratio. In many cases, we are telling people that, you know, this is what you should be looking at, given our expertise in the industry at least. So hope that answers the question. And I think there's also one more question on in terms of support on for Python. So that's also a very interesting question.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's something that we see in lots of customers, and especially in the insurance industry. In the vast majority of the use cases, customers want to do some sort of more advanced analytics, some sort of forecasting and predictive analytics, and the answer is definitely yes. We do have hooks, and we do support integration with you know, third-party engines, Python and R being just, you know, 2 of them, which we see very often in the market.
And also, since we are talking on that side, what about AI capabilities?
That's another very good question. We can start talking today and finish tomorrow, I'm afraid, because it depends on how AI is defined, right? It's a very vague concept. I mean, the NLG, NLP, NLU, the natural language understanding processing generation is some sort of AI, right? Now, in our world, we don't call it artificial intelligence, we call it augmented intelligence, because we use the artificial intelligence aspect and we combine it with the human aspect as well, because artificial intelligence on its own cannot do anything. So in our world, we call it AI, but as in augmented intelligence. We do provide several functionalities that use artificial intelligence. As I said, natural language might be one of them, data mining or advanced analytics algorithms like clustering, decision trees, neural networks, all these are there. You can either use them natively within Click, or if you want something more advanced, as we explained a bit earlier, you can leverage Python, R, or any other statistical engine that exists out there.
Thanks a lot for that. I think we're about near the end of the session. So first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Bassam for joining us and sharing his insight, to the Click team and my own team in setting this up, and to the participants for joining us. I just also wanted to announce that we normally have an annual workshop in the industry. In UAE, it did not happen last year, it was more of a webinar. But this year again, we'll be having one, and we are focusing a lot on motor because of the current issues that everyone is facing in motor. So that will be on 29th of November, and we'll be announcing it shortly. Secondly, the video will be uploaded on our LinkedIn and other social media pages, so that if anyone wants to see the presentation or go through this again, they can do that and they can share across. And anytime you need to ask anything or you have any further questions, feel free to connect with us.
Thank you, Hatim, and thank you all for attending. We will, of course, together with Badri, be following up to discuss any further questions or requirements. I did see Basam's hand was up. Was there a further question? We do have a couple of minutes, so.
Yeah, it's a very quick one. I mean, we are already started the process of moving from ClickView to ClickSense. But I want to ask about the commitment of Click for the transformation process from the elder ClickView to ClickSense, and what is the logistic behind the such steps? I mean, you said that much of the data will be migrated, but this is much. It's not all. What the extent, and how we can maintain the work that we have done on ClickView to migrate it to ClickSense.
So yeah, let me take that. So as I said before, the backend is exactly the same. So as in data models, whatever you have created in ClickView will be 100% converted to ClickSense and reused. When we refer to the calculations and to the expressions, as we call them, again, they will be 100% converted or ported to ClickSense, since the backend is the same. Now, when it comes to the front end, due to the fact that the technologies are different, so ClickSense is based on newer technologies, on HTML5 and CSS and JavaScript and stuff like that, I think it makes sense that the ClickView content cannot be converted as in one-to-one to ClickSense, but what we get is through a conversion tool that we provide that we call ClickView Converter. We get what we call master items in ClickSense. So the charts and the visualizations that you already have in ClickView are converted into the equivalent objects in ClickSense. Now, depending on the complexity of the visualization itself, it might be 100% converted, it might be 0% converted, right? Because ClickView might, if the configuration of the chart in ClickView is very, very advanced and possibly is using functionality that is not supported in ClickSense, the visualization will not be converted, which means that we will need to build a new visualization, a new chart, right, instead of what we have in ClickView. Now, the data is there, the functions are there, the calculations and the expressions are already there. So it's only a matter of putting together a new visualization object, a new chart, a new bar chart, a new pie chart, whatever this might be, right? Now, if the visualization in ClickView is fairly simple, or it does not take advantage of components that are not supported in ClickSense, like, for example, Visual Basic scripts or macros. These are old technologies that we cannot port to ClickSense. So as long as we don't use this kind of technologies and the chart is fairly simple or moderately simple, the vast majority of the visualization will be converted to ClickSense. So it's just a matter of laying the objects on a blank canvas. So, but when we move from one technology to another, the vast majority of the work is in the backend. So the data model and the transformations on the data and the calculations, which is easily 80 to 90% of the project, right? So we are left with a 10% in terms of putting the objects on a new dashboard.
Thank you, very clear.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think since we have reached the end of the time, thanks a lot everyone for attending. And yes, we will share the presentation and also the video shortly.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.